All right, so for our next step in our Christmas sleigh bonanza, let's go back to yet another movie that has barely anything to do with the festivities, but was released around the time. The 1959 adaptation of Journey to the Center of the Earth, based upon one of the cornerstone books of author Jules Verne, which, for anyone who doesn't know, was a visionary that, one in extravagant kind of ways, either predicted or, set the ideas of modern inventions like the submarine with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Value, this is one of his more fantastical books, and he did so by intention, by the fact that a lot of the science done it was based around just speculation and without actually having to give any scientific credibility. I actually did read the book for school, but this movie in particular, I actually grew up with it as a child, believe it or not. I don't know why someone in my family recorded it during a TV screening, including the commercials, so I have those ingrained all the time in my mind too. And and it kind of stuck with me. I also seen a couple of the other adaptations, like the movie with Brendan Fraser, more recently with Deji, but we're not here today for it. I can mention more about the book and what differences does this have with it, only due time. And good news, people, this is yet another product that back in the day was distributed by 20th Century Fox, meaning that yes, this is also, at least for Europe, on Disney Plus for you to see. Is there anything that hasn't been, turned around? It's like finding a bug under a stone.
It's a problem.
It's
The
a
game was rigged
disease.
from the start.
Anyway, not beating too much around the bush, start before ye old 20th Century Fox logo. Even if you're on Disney Plus, you should have that. In 3, 2, 1, click. So just to
I got
know,
a hand.
I'm not the only one who's seen this. What about you, the rest of you?
I haven't
I've
now.
seen I've seen the 2008 film. Oh,
Which
and just to
one?
clarify, since yes, there were 3 2008 films with the name Journey to the Center of the Earth, I'm
What?
referring to the one that you may actually know about, the one with Brendan Fraser. Yes, Shiroi. Okay, so one of those
Is this
was, of
like the
course,
year they had all those Pinocchio movies?
Kinda.
so to be fair, one of those movies was basically the Asylum, because mockbusters are the Asylum's thing. Oh, a movie's coming
Oh,
out this
I
year? Well,
forgot.
time to
Pat
quickly
Boone
make
is
a
in this.
movie. I don't
Who?
recognize that name.
Conservative religious nut. He is still starring in movies
Ah.
to this day.
Huh. Older guy.
Close friend to
Oh, Alan
Ronald.
Napier.
Close friend to Ronald Reagan pre and post election. That should tell you everything.
I noticed Alan Napier is in here too. Cool. Alfred from Batman.
16th Batman to be exact.
Yeah, but his role is
Batman.
very minimal. I don't think he even. Okay, no, he does talk. He's one of the roles towards the beginning. So just to mention quickly, director Henry.
Wait, Jim Gordon did the photographic
Of
effects?
course, he needed to
Yes.
multitask. Director Henry Levine, or Levine, and written by Charles Brackett and Walter Reich. These people have been doing stuff since the 30s, so they were basically accustomed to doing movies at this point, and they've done a lot of stuff around the era, so not much that you need to know, technically.
I'll admit, this starting score is a lot more haunting than I expected
Good
Journey to the
observation,
Center of the
Jordan.
Earth to be.
Good observation. The music done by the legendary Bernard Herrmann, which started with Citizen Kane, so that should tell you also everything, was admitted to be an inspiration to Danny Elfman to create the Batman 1989 score, believe it or not.
Interesting. So we have a few
Anyway,
Batman connections
I
here.
need to mention this immediately for those who don't know. The book started at least, in Germany, starring Professor Otto Lindenbrock. Instead, they moved the setting here to Scotland, Edinburgh, with Professor Sir Oliver Lindenbrook. Why? Because it was 1959 and Hollywood deemed still too early to actually have German people star in a positive light in movies. No, not even kidding.
Knighthood for
Welcome.
Edinburgh scientists.
Yeah, welcome to Edinburgh, whereas I found out
There
really
are
recently
bagpipes
does have
everywhere.
constant bagpipe music everywhere.
Oh, so it's a truth in television bout here.
Yeah, I
Professor
can't believe Highlander 2 was right about something.
Professor Lindenbrook is played by James Mason, who was an actor that had a lot of roles at the time, like the 50 version of A Star Is Born, and unfortunately was also Captain Nemo in the Disney's version of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I'll talk more about that if we ever get to that movie. Needless to
Why
say,
am I not
he has
surprised?
done movies on until the 80s. Prolific actor, that's all you need to know.
I'm curious, did Disney use him in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea because he was hot from this movie?
No idea, possible.
Could you just gone around them?
This gag is here to mention that the professor is a bit absent-minded. Now, believe it or not, oh, there you go. In the Easter here is knighted, so his students and the rest of the university is actually giving him the, I don't know what the term is, special laud. In the Italian dub, for some reason, they decided to sing him the Gaudeatus Igitum, I think it's called, another type of hymn. I'm not sure why they changed that. They could have just, stick with this.
You didn't
Also,
tell me
never
this is a
mind.
musical.
That's because Pat Boone, right in the center, has also been a professional singer, so they took the occasion to say, why not, sprinkle in some songs of here and there.
Also, never mind. If anything, he's in this movie because of how big a hit 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was, because that was released in 1954, and this was done in 1959, which is ironic since book-wise, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea came out after Journey to the Center of the Earth. So, yeah, interestingly enough, technically Disney have never directly made their own Journey to the Center of the Earth film, as far as I can tell. What they did make, however, was a 2023 Disney Plus series for Journey to the Center of the Earth.
I heard about that, but I haven't seen it yet.
Alan Napier.
Alan Napier was the guy with the glasses that was on the right of Lindenbrook, one of the other university teachers. Now, in the book, the relationship between the two characters was that Otto had a nephew, I think if I recall correctly, that was called Axel. Instead, here, the character is reconverted as Alec, one of the students. The thing is that this adaptation is very peculiar because it does so many different things, but it shows that the people who made it actually read the book, because they literally took the elements from the book and either converted or rearranged them and then added a couple of things to it. So it does showcase to me that despite it not being a good adaptation at the end of the day, someone still did their homework and was not mindless about it. There is a bit more to it.
Wait, Good Friday. Are you sure this isn't an Easter movie?
Professor Lindenbrook, like I said, is portrayed as a bit absent-minded, and as we will learn very soon, as it was kind of a custom for Fox movie at the time, chauvinist. One of the arc that specifically is for the movie that wasn't even in the book is that he basically has to get over his sexism.
Profound for the time that book was
don't
written.
Don't expect miracles, but again, I'll elaborate more as the movie goes on. So, in the original book, Otto and Axel were actually studying some particular Icelandic scriptures and found out something. Instead, in here, Alec did found a piece of lava that was heavier than it should be, and decided to get it as a gift for 3 shillings, which I don't think is that much, for the professor in order to pique his curiosity, which seems to have done it.
Just to check, James Mason was the actor you were groaning about, right?
No, Pat Boone instead, the guy who plays Alec. Which has to present with the kilt and everything. God, have we mentioned this is set in Edinburgh?
I guess to give him credit, he's not overemphasizing the Scottish accent.
I wear no pants. I wear no pants.
Also, yes, for being in Scotland, you people sound rather English, don't you?
That's the thing. I think, okay, Pat Boone was actually born in America. I don't know if his ancestry travels back to either Ireland or Scotland.
Well, I don't know about how Americans treated it, but I can tell. One thing I can say about how my country portrayed different British accents in media at the time. We didn't really. If you were on broadcast, if you were on the BBC, for example, and to a lesser extent ITV at the time, you had to speak in what they call BBC English, basically pronounced generic English, no matter what part of the country you were from.
I remember like this dramatic movie about Hitler starring Robert Carlyle, and I just recall how everyone in Germany speaks with the most English of accents ever. It's kind of surreal seeing Adolf Hitler speak in pretty much refined Cockney English.
That was in almost every English language version of his portrayal.
Jenny here is played by actually she's still alive, Diane Baker. Which was the second role in her career. Let me see.
What a role to choose.
No, I don't recognize anything else. Her last major movie role was in 2012 and for TV in 2013. Oh, she was in 2 episodes of Doctor House.
They're good touching other people's stuff. But, oh, that was a bit of an awkward cut.
Yeah, weird. Interesting enough, James Mason is labeled here as being born in Huddersfield, West Riding of Yorkshire.
Yeah.
But he hasn't starred in any early Doctor Who episodes. I kind of missed that. Instead, he was mostly famous for being leader Shakespearean theater actor, being in Henry VIII, The Tempest, and Macbeth in the 30s.
Well, yeah, not every recognizable British actor was in Doctor Who.
Well, mostly you think that for the classic series, it would be like a one-episode character.
Nah, I mean, in terms of like actors that have done like at least some well-known movies, back in the 60s, the only one I can think of is Michael Gough, who was who would go on to who was the toy maker in Doctor Who, and he would go on to be Alfred in the Burton / Schumacher Batman. Yep. Oh, and also Patrick Troughton himself, after he left the role as the second Doctor, he would go on to be in The Omen,
which is also now a Disney franchise.
It is very imperative that we know that this man is good at playing piano. It'll come in handy when he needs to serenade some weird creatures from the center of the earth.
Real life stuff aside, I had to concede that Pat Boone had a good singing voice.
Although that being said, I do have to wonder, like, okay, this isn't a Disney film, but if it were, I'd be wondering if that song was put there because they needed a musical number. It does seem to have
some of the style of the live-action movies that Disney was having at the time, like the Blackbeard's Ghost, for example.
And most notably, again, comparing this to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which was another Jules Verne. I wouldn't be surprised if 20th Century Fox at the time was doing an adaptation of this to compete. Well, okay, not directly compete since this came years after, but it's like, hey, Disney have this idea to take a Jules Verne story. Why don't we do our own? Heck, let's even get James Mason as well for both of them.
Anyway, yeah, just in case you need to know, Axel did have a lot of interest in the original book, but it wasn't that much mentioned. It was more of a case of, a thing that he reminded Otto occasionally as a goal to get back. But this movie also captures the idea that Alec, despite being a bit of a womanizer and being his eyes from Jenny, still has that scientific curiosity that explains why he would be in the professor's class. Which I do appreciate. It would have been so easy to have the character just being completely absent-minded and everything, but no, they actually bother to, still put it a bit on par with the professor.
James Mason is both the protagonist of this and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. How cool would it have been if they'd gone for free and gotten him to be like the main protagonist in a Around the World in 80 Days adaptation?
I know that one was done around this time, but I don't remember specifically when. I need to check.
Science does not jump to conclusions. Okay, 99% of the time, I agree. The other 1% is questionable.
Oh, there you
Speaking
go.
of Adam,
Around the World in 80 Days, movie in 1956 by United Artists, so that would be Paramount.
Oh, so basically the 1950s was the decade for Jules Verne live-action adaptations.
Oh, there's casual feeble questioning, am I right?
Again, it depends on where the science comes from.
Now, when it comes to Journey to the Center,
bloody hell!
Did the people
Well,
from Aquaman took over
whoopsie.
again?
Interesting thing about Journey to the Center of the Earth adaptations, the concept of Journey to the Center of the Earth is so loose that adaptations can range from, oh, this is how the book went, to, oh, this is a pseudo-sequel to the book, to, oh, it's just people going to the center of the Earth.
I was going to explain it later because I grew up also with an animated adaptation from, I don't even know, maybe one of the Australian, those bootleg kind of companies like Golden Films. I don't know which specific one did it, which instead starts with Professor Lindenbrock making a giant ball of metal which turns as a boiler, and since it explodes, he says, see, this is the proof why the inside of the Earth cannot be made by hot magma. That's why we need to go inside. Instead, here, it's connected to what it was in the book. In the book, they did found the writing on the Icelandic slab. Instead, here, they find a plumb bob inside the piece of lava that Alec had gotten to the professor. From this guy, Arne Saknussemm.
That's a name I tend to see pop up in a lot of adaptations as well, specifically the last name.
If you haven't read the book, you might be given under the impression, and know only partially about the story, that this is the story on how, Professor Lindenbrook, in this case, managed to add the scientific curiosity to go and find the center of the Earth, on his own, for the benefit of the scientific community. When in reality, he's just retreading the ground of someone else who did it before him.
Whoopsie!
Now, to be fair, it is worth noting that, as the professor is explaining now, Saknussemm never returned, so he couldn't actually publish his scientific discovery, so Lindenbrook is just, finishing the job. But he's basically just continuing an existing work rather than doing his original stuff. Compared to a lot of the other Jules Verne book, Journey to the Center of the Earth is very much simple compared to stuff like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's a very much simpler light novel when you get down to it.
I think part of that is because of the big three of Jules Verne's story, I believe it was the earliest of the bunch.
I mean, I don't know what you mean by the third, because I know that the other is 20,000 Years Under the Sea, but I don't know if with the third you mean something like From Earth to the Moon, or Around the World in 80 Days.
Yeah. Around the World in 80 Days is the third one of those big three. Like, typically when it comes to Jules Verne, the most popular stories are Journey to the Center of the Earth, which was made in 1864, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, made in 1870, and Around the World in 80 Days, made in 1872.
I don't know.
Not to
I
say he
argue
didn't
From the
make...
Earth to the Moon is still pretty famous on its own.
Oh, it's famous, but I think, again, from what I've been able to curate, when it comes to, like, what are his top big ones, the top three tend to be those. Not to say that, nobody's heard of From the Moon and Back, essentially. Like, shoot, Disney actually technically made a roller coaster ride out of that in Disneyland Paris, which was fantastic. It's just that, you don't often see, like, movies made from the Moon and Back, weirdly enough.
Poet Jova said the only ones I'd heard of were this and Around the World. From
Oh,
my
not
side of
20,000
things.
Leagues Under the Sea.
Have you ever
I'm
heard of...
surprised.
No.
Okay. Well, we'll
Ah.
show the movie on one day, maybe.
So get this, Sherry. In addition to there being 3 different 2008 Journey to the Center of the Earth movies, there was also a video game release that year too. Go
I
figure.
think I actually have that in my Steam library, believe it or not. Let me see.
Oh, wait. It made it to PC as well? I thought that was just on the DS, dang.
Was that was that game its own separate adaptation, or was it a tie-in to one of the 3 movies
No,
that
definitely.
was...
From the screenshot that I have here, it definitely feels like a separate adaptation on its own.
Jeez.
There was a DS adaptation of the 2008 Brendan Fraser game, though, so...
Yeah, the one that I have is definitely not a tie into that.
So how about that, though? 2008 was just the year of Journey to the Center of the Earth. Like, now, to its credit, one of those movies was made by the Asylum. Their MO is basically to cash in on a big movie of the time and trick parents and grandparents into buying it, saying, "Oh, look at that! The movie came out to home media early. My kid will love this."
Alright,
Profit and whatnot.
here's something that wasn't in the book. In order to give, just to need to know, the book... the book's considered the lowest aspect is the process of Otto Lindenbrock and Axel to actually get to this novel you're cool and inside the crater, because it takes way too long and nothing happens. It's just about the characters recapping a bit what's happening around them. Nothing more than it's just a simple journey. So the movie, in order to add a bit of spice, introduced this subplot where Lindenbrock foolishly sent the papers to his discovery to a fellow professor called Göteborg in Sweden, I think, in order to ask for counsel. But in turn, it seems that Göteborg got the idea to actually go on his own and beat him to the punch. So now it's a race against time. Okay, never mind. Apparently on Steam there are 2 different Journey to the Center of the Earth video games, and I only have one of them. One was was developed and published by Frogwares. The one that I have instead developed and published by Insane with a Y at the end.
Are there any more Journey to the Center of the Earth adaptations I should know of?
Well, Disney did actually make an attraction,
And
better
apparently
late than
there's
never, over in.
and apparently there's the Disney Plus series, but I have know nothing about it. Maybe I will look into
Yeah,
that.
I did go on a ride
yeah.
themed after the movie when I was in Japan.
Oh,
Yep. Tokyo Disney Sea. Yeah, that's where the
Yes.
attraction is.
also, I might have gone instead to one of those situations where they show you clip of the movie while the seats move around to simulate the movement. So that are clips
Nice.
from the 2008 movie.
So yeah, here we are at the volcano.
Pat, I get it. You can sing. You can stop now.
You don't understand. The director said I have to sing. Apparently, it'll help the movie sell a ton more because we want
Does
to be like Disney.
okay? Question in the more modern ones, do either Brendan Fraser or The Rock sing in those?
No, thank God. And The Rock is
No,
only in
not
the
to my
sequel movie,
recollection.
which is based on the Mysterious Island.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant.
No, don't
So,
worry.
believe it or not, adaptation-wise, we've had a few other adaptations of Journey to the Center of the Earth. A 1967 animated ABC series, which is actually based on the 1959 film. A 1977 Australian animated TV film.
That is the one that I might have watched as a child. Because it has
There
similar
is
animation to the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde animated, TV movie that Potatoes reviewed.
goodness gracious, there's Vieja al Centro de la Tierra, a 1977 Spanish film starring Kenneth More, which was released in the United States as Where Time Began, and on British television as The Fabulous Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Why?
Because it needs to be fabulous over in Britain, apparently, Jesus. And then, okay, here's where things get a little kooky. In 1989, there was, in fact, a sequel to the movie Alien from LA. Now, let me put things into perspective here. The original movie to this movie called Journey to the Center of the Earth was a movie called The Alien from LA, essentially, which is about Wanda Saknussemm. I forget if it's implied that she's like descended from the original
Most likely.
Saknussemm or whatnot, but basically someone from LA who comes to the center of the earth. But then the actual sequel was a direct-to-video film called Journey to the Center of the Earth. It's like essentially making a prequel to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and then following that up with the actual 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, only the classic story gets the direct-to-video treatment for some reason. Then in 1993, there was another TV film starring Carol Strickman, Tim Russ, and Jeffrey Nording. Oh.
So yeah, don't expect any lines from Professor Göteborg because he's not that much in this movie, again, being an original character, and he doesn't speak any lines.
I was wondering if he was going to be like an antagonist
actually,
or
no, Joe,
something.
but, okay, sorry, never mind. He's played by Ivan Trisolt. Let me see what else he's done. I could swear I saw him somewhere else. He was in a couple of episodes of Perry Mason and the 60s Batman show.
Makes sense. Tons of people were in the 60s Batman show.
So yeah, well, the movie will indulge a bit also on the, part of before the getting inside the crater. It will not be as tedious as it was in the book. Oh, in case you're wondering, yes, both the professor and Alec came here to Iceland without even bothering to hire, someone to speak to, or a translator or a guide.
It was that important that they win the race, I guess.
Yes.
Is this sabotage, or can the guy simply not understand what they're saying?
Well, to be fair, we've
Alright.
seen that Professor Gaetaborg seemed to have sabotaged things a bit, but again, there's more to this than meets the eye.
So we've begun our titular journey.
Kinda, sorta. This is just the preparations of it. Boop.
Ow.
Ah, the 50s, where you could just bump someone in the head and they will actually, get knocked out for a few minutes at least.
How did they get all that fur?
Actually, those are plumages. This is a deposit.
Boy, the journey to the center of the Earth is a lot more fluffy and feathery than I remember it.
See, this is how, this gets in Kingdom Hearts. So this is where they meet Donald.
Exactly.
What happened
Well,
to him?
If only other really dark stories like Kingdom Hearts had scenes like this in it.
Alright, here's time for another new thing added, which is for a gag.
Kingdom Hearts features the protagonist stabbing themselves to it. Kinda.
So basically, Professor Gutenberg has stolen their purchases, their hotel. Basically, everything that they ordered,
He's way
he's
up
taken
ahead.
hold
And
of.
remember, Iceland is not particularly big of a country. So yeah, the gag is where the duck on the other side is just rhyming things out and mistaking it as Morse code. In case you're wondering, yes,
This is a sequence.
this was a pre-cannibal Holocaust movie, so that poor duck was actually completely white originally. We'll get a better look later, and instead the poor duck was painted over. As a reminder, animals who were painted over for movies at this time generally died because the paint was actually lethal to them.
So this is how Donald will meet them in Kingdom Hearts 4.
Clearly.
Well, since Kingdom Hearts 4 is partly going to take place in something more like the real world, maybe that will be where Journey to the Center of the Earth comes in.
Which is hilarious considering even in the original book, Jules Verne actually wrote that the characters do lampshade that by all accounts the science they encounter makes no sense whatsoever, and yet it happens.
Okay.
Again, it is one of the more light-hearted novels. And here's instead Hans. In the book, Hans was just a guide that was hired. In here is just a guy that he owns the place and has a duck. This is kind of a mythology gag because in the book, Hans was for sport a duck hunter. So instead they told him, what if he actually had a duck sidekick?
They think he's making love to the duck.
Hilarious. Also, you get a better look at Hans later when he removes his hat and anything, but just to mention, in the original book he was explicitly stated to be a redhead, and instead here he's as blonde, as a bar of solid gold. So you don't want to set the movie still at the beginning in Germany, and yet you get the most Aryan-looking guy to play Hans instead. Getting mixed messages
to be
from
fair
your
as well.
making.
I suppose, to be fair, the idea is like, hey, not German, so all fine, and hey, he's got a golden tooth too.
The gimmick is that Hans was not able to speak, in this case, English. In the book, it was not needed because he was useful as a guide just with his actions. But in here, they will bother to have someone else to translate his lines.
You know, I love it. Professor Gertrude, or I guess his henchmen, didn't think to consider that maybe that shed might be inhabited by somebody who could help
It
them
was a
out.
spur of the moment thing. Just to mention also, Ansley is properly played instead by actor Peter Ronson, and this was literally his only role.
Huh.
A
guess he
native
peaked
Icelander
high.
too, so they actually did got someone from Iceland for it.
Kudos.
Classic. That's the trick
Lovely.
Jessica Fletcher using Murder, She Wrote all the time.
This is the police.
Don't tell me. We walk in on him dead.
Oh, don't worry, Hansi has some level criminal versatility. I'm not sure what this says about him. Especially because
Let me guess.
the
Veteran
movie...
from the war.
Well, not really. The movie set in the 1800s, 1880, yeah. The movie generally tries to showcase the fact that Hans is genuinely just a good guy. Sure, he can have his moments, potential of losing his composure, but for the most part, he's actually, calm and collected.
Wait a minute. Han's a relatively just nice guy.
No.
Is that what Disney were taking inspiration from for Frozen?
No. It's a good thing I don't have to think about him anymore. So yeah, as mentioned, Professor Göteborg had called dibs on all the equipment that Lindenburg needed, so it's just here for the taking.
Although, why wait until he returns? Just take the gear and get going.
I think Lindenbrook is on the fair chance he wants to reason with the guy and collaborate, fellow scientist and all.
Perhaps.
Check this out. Simple gag that was classic from the 50s. Oh, look, a dead body!
Dead people.
Wait a minute.
Oh?
Hold on a minute.
So yeah, mysteriously, Göteborg is dead already.
Okay, I was actually joking about that, but holy cow.
But that ponders the question, what happened?
Because they didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't be silly. I see them in the advertisements all the time. Book a king-size room and you'll get a king. A dead one, but he's still a king.
However, the professor has noted something.
Something in his beard.
Classic. He was poisoned by poison. But someone else did instead killed him beforehand. But yeah, whomst?
Well, I guess we don't have time to think about that because we're heading right back to the volcano in the... Oh, never mind.
This
guy.
Byronic kind of guy, but we'll have to see who exactly he is later.
I think it's one of those classic old bouts of storytelling, whereas you saw the face of the guy, but you had no idea who he was.
Here's where the story diverges a bit more. Like I said, the whole stuff with Göteborg was added onto the original to add a bit of spice. In order to add to that, they added that Göteborg had a wife, Carla, here, played by Arlene Dahl, which passed away in 2021. This was fairly late in her career. She rose to prominence in the late 40s. I don't recognize anything else from her career, but she has done also plenty of stuff.
First time for everything.
Oh, first time for everything. Yeah.
You left a corpse in your hotel overnight. Like, imagine if you forgot to tell her and she just walked in on the corpse of her husband.
That would have been hilarious.
She probably
It might
wondered
have
why he
killed
didn't
her.
say goodnight.
I mean, at least she'd be
Yeah,
together with her
especially-
husband again.
Oh boy. Wouldn't it be interesting if she ends up being the love interest of the guy that her husband was trying to sabotage?
Now, I can't believe this was kind of a slightly recurring thing with Fox, making kind of story of these, because remember, this particular plotline for the story is original to the movie. It wasn't in the book. And it's kind of similar something that was happening in the adaptation of Dr. Dolittle that was happening around the same time, which was also distributed by Fox.
I recall
Where
that one
our
did
main-
not work out for them as well.
No, because the Dolittle himself was played by an asshole of an actor. I forgot his name. Here's
I think it
what
was
not
George Rex, maybe.
Not to mention, here it's a bit more understandable. Like I said, the movie wants to have an arc where Linda Brooke starts as a chauvinistic idiot that is too focused on his job to listen to bloody women. But by the end of the movie, he will actually change his ways.
Oh, so the actor you're thinking of is Rex Harrison from the original.
He also
yeah.
played one of the main characters in My Fair Lady.
I'll just say this, despite the fact that there are massive deviations from the original story, when it comes to Doolittle movies, I'll stick with the Eddie Murphy ones, because in 1967, you got Rex Harrison's Disaster, and then in 2020, you got the Robert Downey Jr. film.
I tried
Jesus
watching the
Christ.
Eddie Murphy movies, but I was not laughing really at the comedy, so I'm just cutting it at chase and say that maybe the adaptations are just cursed to me.
It's weird. Like, the concept of Doolittle is so simple. Like, okay, I like the Eddie Murphy films, but I just always found it weird that an adaptation was apparently hard to do justice with it. Like, it seems like such a simple concept of the age. Dude can talk to animals and solves problems with that ability,
The adaptations,
essentially.
from what I've seen, either focus too much on the comedy or, emphasize too much instead of the story, instead of trying to reach a balance.
If I recall correctly, yeah, the character in the 1967 film is problematic by today's ages, similar to this guy in this movie. The difference is, I don't think that movie addresses it like this movie at least addresses the fact
They tried
that
to making
our
it an arc,
protagonist...
but it doesn't work, and it was not helped by, like I said, the actor, even IRL, was a complete asshole towards everyone and everything.
So yeah, Gitterberg's wife has to now come to terms with the fact that her husband was kind of a slime ball who
And
sabotaged.
there's also the fact that Linda Brooke wants the equipment, but there's no nice way to ask to a grieving lady. But
Which is weird,
there's
since
one
technically
thing,
that was
the
his,
diary
but
of
yeah.
her husband.
Incredible encounter.
Who wrote that? William Shatner?
So what was the name of that actor you were referring to?
Okay, if you're talking about the original Doolittle film, Rex Harrison.
Ah, okay.
Forget if that was a Disney film.
Fox movie, which now is technically a Disney film.
Go figure. Was Professor Gitterberg German? Because it sounds like she's going for
Sweden,
a German accent. Ah,
from
okay.
Stockholm.
That makes sense. Like, typically, if you want to have characters with multiple accents, they usually come from, like, Sweden then. I guess you're coming along with us after all, Hans. Welcome aboard to this very, very dangerous mission. Dude just goes with the flow, doesn't he?
All right. Hop.
He's a strong boy, isn't he? Yes, that's just the custom of the land.
Interesting. Madame Getteborg knows fluently Icelandic, so she can actually provide the translation for what Hans says and communicate to him. Again, this was not a thing in the book. Again, interestingly enough, for the time this movie was made, it was fairly progressive because Madame Getteborg, despite being ostracized by Lindenbrook occasionally, thankfully not all the time, she is still portrayed very competently, not really sleeping that much and providing useful information and physicality to the mission. Because yes, in case you were wondering, that's basically what's happening. She's going too.
Yep. I'm not too surprised. Like, stuff like women's rights had definitely been in talks in politics. If I recall correctly, they'd gotten the right to vote and everything. So I can see why Hollywood probably would have wanted to reflect that too by making them more prominent in film and, showing that, oh, they don't just have to stay in the kitchen. They're actually sometimes even calling the shots.
I don't. Okay, it's been admittedly a while since I read the book, but just to mention, I don't even remember the book really going into a different direction outside of being written as it was at the time for having a predominantly, male cast and everything. It's kind of like, for example, The Hobbit. There was technically nothing wrong inside it. It just was, lacking, variety in terms of the characters. So, which is what the movie does.
And I'll give it credit. They at least gave a good enough reason to include this character. It's not like she's like, oh, this new cool OC who suddenly is awesome or whatnot.
Like I said, Drova, the people who made this movie clearly have read the book in some fashion and knew where to put what and how to build it up in order to, mix the annotation that was following the beats without, becoming in name only.
From what I can glean from this and the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea adaptation, the idea with adaptations like these were to strictly, restructure Verne's work into something more digestible for a movie experience. Since, like you mentioned, the way Verne wrote was still good, but you could tell it definitely suited more so the book variation than the movie variation.
Also, one that only knows this franchise in this particular story in a very broad way might remember only one set piece, dinosaurs happening. But in the original book, it really is kind of like a footnote that happened. In one occasion, the characters travel on the sea. It's a long story. I will mention more when it becomes apt later. And they encounter a plesiosaurus fighting an ichthyosaurus during one stormy night. That's it. That's the dinosaur presence. But a lot of the other adaptations were like, oh, it's a world under the earth. Let's put dinosaurs in it.
I mean, I think the answer to why is obvious. Dinosaurs tend to be easy box office gold. Like,
there's also the fact that they're kind of mixing up with the novel about the Lost World, not the Jurassic Park, the sequel, but the actual The Lost World story. So there you go. At the precise moment, the Scartaris peak indicates the precise entrance in the Snafolio where to get. I guess God decided to put it that way. I don't know.
When just the right people come, I shall show them the way.
In case you're wondering, if you actually have read the book version of The Hobbit, yes, this particular plot point inspired the whole finding the secret entrance near the Lonely Mountain bit.
I love the implication that those two guys hiked up and then waited there all night just on the
Their
off chance that
chances,
these
yes.
people would come. Sure would have sucked if, like, the wife said no and they just never came. Then those two would have been waiting
It's worth
for
noting
ages.
that they know about what the Skartaris does. They were just waiting overall just in their alcove. Anyway.
In case you forgot the characters' names.
Yeah. And see, the duck is coming too.
Yeah. The Kingdom Hearts world is easy. Just replace Gertrude's scenes with Donald, basically.
Everyone's going.
While I watched this movie with Deji, I have been, pondering how much this would fit for Kingdom Hearts. While the setting has actually something interesting going on, there isn't something in terms of, character interactions and action scenes that probably would justify that. So I'm a bit mixed these days. It could work, but it would require possibly some out of the box thinking. And I get the idea once again that these days Square Enix and Disney are not taking too many risks with the franchise.
I will admit, I don't think they've ever done a. Well, okay. You know, I take that back. They have taken Disney stuff from as early as the Golden Ages. So yeah, technically, this movie isn't too old for them. But I'll admit, a lot of times, typically when they have gone for, the old movies, it's still been a movie that has a relatively good sense of popularity and action.
The big weird new coming thing was Tron by Kingdom Hearts 2 because at that point most everyone had forgotten about it. And it was instead something that the people in the Kingdom team were particularly passionate about.
I do wonder, okay, if Kingdom Hearts were to make a world of Journey to the Center of the Earth, I wonder if it would be this version, or if Disney would probably first make a newer, or if Disney would make a newer movie first. I only say this because
that's the thing, Jordan. We got two, not a direct adaptation, but something close to it. One with the 2001 Atlantis movie, which borrows a lot of elements from the book, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, like that submarine is definitely a Jules Verne XP.
Well, but even also let's say some of the plot elements, like the volcano at the end, for example. The other would be Strange World, which, while it borrows, only little, it has the same kind of spirit, but instead I argue wasted it a bit more on by having two plots clashing against each other. One about wanting to explore the teacher of Strange World, and another about a broken family needing to be mended.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thanks to Gertrude, we have found an entrance. Goodbye.
I guess
Is he going to start singing again? The music sounds like he's going to start a song.
I guess keep that for a second, Reeves.
I guess my only main concern is, again, unless there's like some big action sequence or like a villain to fight, I don't know if they really work with this.
No.
Like, typically Kingdom Hearts worlds have at least some form of antagonist.
Have you ever seen The Black Hole, Jova?
The Black Hole.
It was basically
Excuse me, my husband just died, you bastard.
Yeah, again, Lyndon Bruni to adjust his speech. But to answer your question, Jova, it was Disney's answer to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Originally, wanted to have Arlan Ellison writing the script for that, but if you know anything about Arlan Ellison, he managed to get fired in a single day. Let's just say that. I'll talk more about it if we ever comment on the Black Hole. But my point is that while it doesn't have that many action sequences, I argue that one is a better candidate. In terms of setting, having an antagonist, and having something extravagant going on.
Interesting. I'll have to give that movie a look someday.
That one is actually properly Disney instead of being something from Fox we inherited. So yeah, unfortunately, Alex singing makes sure that also the mysterious poisoner, follows the group suite. Occasionally, we will cut back to Edinburgh in order to check back what Jenny and some of the other characters are thinking, or to have, them having a couple of scenes with them.
Not the far ends, but what about at the center of the Earth?
Props to the professor for actually keeping track of potential news, because at the time it was still relatively hard to come across, news from faraway countries.
Especially since this is the 1800s. You can imagine how well communication went. Send a letter, you'd be lucky if it came back in, like, say, a month if it was between
Telegrams
different
were already a thing, if I recall
countries.
correctly, so those were a bit more, faster. But to again, this instead the professor taking a piece of a newspaper article. We talked about it.
Quite exciting. Already having a brush with death on a very narrow cliff ledge.
The movies were
Just a
noting.
typical day.
The movies were noting that it was praised back in the day for the special effects back then, which, yeah, they still hold up for the most part, but we will have occasional, duds, especially later on, you'll be able to see. Since we haven't talked about
Presuming
it,
this
the budget was $3.44 million and grossed 10 million at the box office. So it was modest at the time, but you have to remember the end of the 50s was not yet the era of the blockbusters, so this was fairly contained, and even adjusting for inflation, it made sense. And it was still a success in the end of the day.
not quite as much money as 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, if I recall correctly, but yes, definitely a success. And speaking of effects, again, assuming that this was made to compete with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the film essentially, which that came out in 1954. That one was made on a budget of $5 million and made $28.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I do get the feeling that they took a few cues from that, and one of the cues was definitely the big effects showcase, because, yeah, the thing people tend to talk the most about with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is how well a lot of those effects aged. So much so that I don't know if they used some of the actual props, but they did replicate a ton for the rides based off of it, or the attractions for it over at Disneyland Paris.
Uh-oh. Also,
Fine, I'm sure.
just to mention, because of this, the movie was nominated for three Academy Award Oscars for Best Art Direction, Set Decoration, Best Effects, Special Effects, and Best Sound. But from what I checked, he did not win any of them.
Okay, I know how this level goes. I just gotta jump right and hit every box of Wampa fruit by the end.
I mean, at least it's better than the QT in the OG Resident Evil 4 game, especially the Wii version. I mean, you can tell that the boulder is clearly made of polyester, but it's cute. It's still cute enough.
But one thing I wish Twinsanity would have done, maybe like some a cappella remixes of prior Crash themes.
That would have been cool.
I do not
Alright.
know how much control Spiral Mouth had over the music they created. The way the characters know that they're on the right track is because Saknussemm has left a bunch of his marks on the rocks, the three signs.
The sad part when I realized that the rock snakes from Thunderbirds Are Go probably would have made more sense here than in that film. Well, gang, why don't we split up and see which way is right?
Actually, no, remember, Lindenbrook says that splitting is a bad idea, believe it or not. So.
Yeah, a smart party.
That's good, yeah. Of course, there's time for tea. I mean, technically he's Scottish, but hey, I guess if this is around that time where England were conquering them, they might
Listen,
consider
tea
themselves
is
British
nice in
enough.
general.
How do we know when to wake up if we can't see the sky?
Biological clock or something like that.
Mm.
Like the
It
first.
kind of just does that.
Yeah.
Also, if we're heading to the center of the Earth, which time zone do we function on?
Yes.
Yes. Again, even the original book was written deliberately with weird science and unshading on it. So this is one of those occasions where, the improbable science is there for the story to revel in it. Unlike in stuff like, say, The Core, where the people who wanted to make the movie wanted it to be super extravagant, but another chunk of the movie writers did not wanted that.
Like, your time zone probably changes every few feet or something, so don't bother keep tracking of it.
They're probably just going on the reasoning of, we walked far enough, let's rest here, and when, one wakes up that feels fine, the rest will follow suit.
Mhm.
Oh my god, will you two just kiss already?
Like, shut up and go to sleep.
And if you paid attention to the scene, thankfully her call actually probably saved their lives because the poisoner was actually about to possibly ambush them.
Oh, yeah, she noticed someone walking up and about.
Alec, you have a girl waiting at you at home. Like, I understand the noble art of kakyo into simping for women older than you, but bro, she's not worth that.
Also,
Guess
she
we
was
do.
clearly doing fine already, so,
Were these two guys from the book as
No.
well?
Again, this is more stuff
Okay.
added for the sake of, spicing things up a bit the journey, because otherwise, the original book is mostly about Lindenbrock and Axel just commenting on the stuff they witness, and Hans just being
Makes
there.
sense. Makes sense. A lot of, from what I recall, a lot of Burns' original novels didn't have as much conflict in them. That was something that adaptations added in later, which, again, I do get it, There are just some cases where it's better to add in spice. It's like with Disney's Renaissance film Beauty and the Beast, which technically didn't have an antagonist unless you counted the Enchantress, and she's much more of a passive one, so they included Gaston to actually put more stakes in there.
So yeah, the poisoner seemed to have wanted to play a trick in order to change the scene. It's kind of like what happens towards the end of Balto.
I was thinking that too. Although I was thinking, dudes, weren't you following these guys? Wouldn't you want to still trail behind them until
Instead,
they find the
understood
center?
the mark of Saknussemm and say, well, if we actually, find them first, we know where to go.
Part of me just wonder what their motivation is. Like, if it's just so
Don't
that they
worry,
can
Jova,
say they
it will
got
actually
their
be revealed. This is actually one of those movies that bother to explain, things, but still keep you in suspense for a while. Possibly a statement of
profound.
how Fox was able to actually adapt Sherlock Holmes, books during the 30s. Yeah,
Huh, good for them.
those are a thing for too. That the movie with Basil Rathbone basically.
I guess now, given what they did given what Disney did with the Great Mouse Detective, and now that they technically
It's
own
all
it
full
all,
circle.
yes.
So yeah, both Gertrude and Miss Göteborg seem to have noticed something is amiss, but unfortunately, well, to be fair to the professor, the evidence as far as they witness seem to be pointing that direction instead. So
From what I can garner, the professor is one who likes to think logically, but he doesn't like to, second guess himself. And he sees in this case a way of, second guessing as a bout of weakness,
He is very
essentially.
transported by the expedition and as an ego to match that. So Alec for the story is clearly just kind of subservient to him because he's just hanging along for the thrill of it. But I do like this line. Idiot.
Look where you're going, you knob.
Well, I wasn't expecting to say I told you so, but... Boy, Hans is really all that in a bag of chips as the muscle.
All of that just by having a shack in the middle of Iceland. To be fair, I guess considering the conditions there between temperature and climate, you kind of need to survive,
Yeah, you didn't see it because you weren't looking where you were going, you idiot.
That's where the Runecroft lamps were for. Was that Gertrude? Have you spotted someone falling into another well?
Aha! Hey!
Yeah, because women can't handle themselves and things like this. Am I right, fellas?
What I do like is
Mindsets.
that he seems to be the only man who actively seems to think like
Again, the
that.
movie wants to have this in order to make a point, and all the so far it has been professor in the book has been constantly proven wrong. So at the very least, I'm glad that they're not trying to be using that to be just gratuitous. Ooh, shiny.
This would totally be a set piece in a Disney attraction.
This particular set piece we're about to have wasn't really in the book. Again, this is one of the biggest aspect in which this movie diverges from the book is that the set pieces that the characters encounter are different from the ones from the book in general.
I'm chalking that up to they want to showcase what they could do effects-wise, and yeah, this seems the perfect place to take a bath.
Like, I guess you had to test it if it was acidic, because with all those minerals going around, you need to check if the water has a decent pH.
Also, nice Austin Powers censorship there with the boulder and covering his
Yeah.
stalagmite, let's call it.
I've seen too many, I forgot his name, Tom Scott videos where he visit alkaline lakes.
Fair enough point.
I mean, again, Pirates of the Caribbean also told that corsets are a bad idea.
Yeah, like when Elizabeth nearly fell to her death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Now,
yeah. Give some privacy,
yeah.
Hans. You too, Gertrude.
No, it's okay. Gertrude's a woman, so she can watch.
Of course. Hilarious.
Gertrude, why? Does Gertrude want to wear the court set herself?
I mean, her
Sure.
choice, I don't know.
Gertrude, you're perfectly beautiful
Oh.
the way you are, crud.
God damn it, Alec. Okay, want to pay attention to this. The fact that Alec has fallen into this particular hole in order to retrieve his equipment. And now, as a result, because he's also kind of an idiot, he goes the wrong way to get back.
How? He had to just come through the hole. The hole's still there in the shot.
Follow the
It's
light.
like a singular path.
Like, Ronoro Zoro doesn't have this kind of, losing way of losing himself. But I wanted to remember the fact that he
I'm
fell
not worried about the woman.
that he fell through a specific hole. Just remember that in a second.
Yeah, might as well take a specimen with us.
I mean, these look very pretty. Even even if they're not valuable, crystals do have a particular, good look to them.
Yeah, if for a second there I thought wait a minute. So I was just gonna say, is he gonna take the thing and it's going to collapse and do them? But they're hold.
Close.
All from just taking one little jewel.
Okay, now the danger is that the cave is filling up rapidly with water, okay, but what about the hole where Alec fell through? That one should act as a sink, and yet instead now the movie forgot about that and it's thinking that the cave is gonna fill up.
Let me guess. Alec mysteriously shows up in a place where he can save them because he went the wrong way.
Again, you will see what happens. The characters need to find a way. Well, okay, Gertrude kind of has an advantage, but still.
Somebody really went, I bet you I can make iconic scenes with a duck for this movie.
Again, Gertrude is clearly there to put a bit of comedy relief, but don't worry, the movie wants to also have a point with the duck, believe it or not. Yeah, the water doesn't even
No water going down there.
How? He doesn't even hear the sound of the water rushing.
Like, unless those little drips over there are supposed to be it, but no, there should be like a plume of water going through his spot if he was able to fit down there.
I don't think MST3K covered this movie, but I think they probably would have, Mike and the robots would have had a field day back in the day to do this.
Well, that's not good.
That's what you get for trying to nick something from an ancient civilization.
Well, those are just
ancient civilization. It was a crystal in a wall.
Dweebs, it was crystals, of course.
Like, hey, Cortex mines crystals all the time, and you don't see this happening to him.
There you go. With the stalactite falling.
Wait, don't be holding to your arm or your shoulder, make up your mind.
Okay, if I recall correctly, I think the 2008
that a hole is there for them to climb out.
Lovely. If I recall correctly, I think the 2008 film, the Brendan Fraser one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when I say the 2008 film, just assume I'm talking about the Brendan Fraser one. I think that one had no. I think that movie had an homage to this scene, actually, now that I think about it.
I think you're thinking towards the end, where instead of a volcano, they're right out of a geyser.
I feel like there was also a bit where they had to avoid drowning at some point. I think that might
Colonel,
be
it
right
is high
before they get to
rated.
the
We
island.
managed to avoid drowning.
Wonderful.
There you go. Um, who wants to go for another ride?
Me.
Again.
Yeah, now we're thinking about Alec. Poor guy.
Okay, so MST3K actually did an episode on the Alien from LA movie, which surprises me since that's 1989. Wait, hold on.
Well, we've been doing, MST3K has been doing movies from a bit all over the place, unless you're thinking about Reef Tracks, which has covered also more recent movie like Cats 2019. Because of course we
Uh,
did that.
they covered the 1988 film Alien from LA, which is technically a Journey to the Center of the Earth adaptation, which was
Yeah.
followed up by a sequel actually called Journey to the Center of the Earth.
It's kind of like those kind of adaptations that are surfing Dracula memes, but then they made, a follow-up movie that is supposed to actually adapt the original events.
Mhm. It really is interesting how Mystery Science 3000 is arguably the progenitor of, shoot, what even shows like us do to this day,
It's mostly
essentially.
because it's an evolution what movie buff circles were of young people were doing already from the 50s. For example, couples or group of friends in drive-ins, in their car, actually loudly saying stuff that they see in the movie.
Hmm.
Okay, there will be an explanation of what the hell these special effects is about later, so don't worry about it.
I will say, though, the fact that they could comfortably do a movie as recent in the 1980s, given the fact that Mystery Science 3000 itself started in 1988, kind of implies that Alien from LA was one of those movies that got pseudo disowned, essentially, or at the very least, whatever company was behind it wasn't going to
It
bother
really
suing.
depended. If you don't know anything about the history of MST3K, is that originally the network, I think it was MTV, just decided to end a bunch of, movie reels that either were in the public domain or nobody was giving a shit about, like some Gamera movies to riff upon for a comedy show. But later on, they had encountered problems with actual copyright holders. Tales all this time, basically. Anyway, in the
And now,
meantime, poor Alec, he's not encountering good environments, mostly about places with heat.
also today I learned that Mystery Science Theater 3000 had a stint on Netflix, of all things,
Yes,
with the Netflix era
it was
revival.
complicated. First, it was on the MTV, then on the Sci-Fi Channel, where they had the plot line happening. Then Netflix revived them for 2 seasons, and then instead they had their own Kickstarter project for their own separate channel on their own.
Boy, it's been everywhere. The Comedy Channel,
Alright,
Comedy
time for some fan
Central.
service because again, Pat Boone was particularly good looking at the time.
It's interesting. Pat Boone's been kind of the jack of all trades for, well, all kinds of fan service in this movie. He's done the singing, the serenading, the bravado,
And he's also
the
labeled
nude
as
scene.
as also used as the clumsy person, to showcase the danger. No, 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 Alec, don't let him shade that, or all movie critics will actually hate that. Oh my, now we're about to show some legs, I guess. I do wonder if in an original draft, someone wanted Madame Getaborg to actually, pass through this routine, because you will think that this kind of, thing happens to the average female character of a movie around the time, and instead we relegated that to the youngster.
I know that before the Roaring Twenties, women showing too much skin was considered
Whoa!
absolutely scandalous and whatnot, but since this is after the 20s, I guess this might have been at the point where people were all about showing more skin for fan service. Okay, if our the Bond films hadn't started yet, had
Whoa!
they? Whoops!
Poor Alec, he just cannot catch a break. And
Bonk.
it's all fucking salt. To literally rubbing salt into the wound.
Hopefully he didn't get any in his eyes. God, I hate Mondays.
Garfield at the center of the earth.
You know, given all the wacky stuff we've seen from Garfield, I am partially surprised
Which
we've not
is,
gotten a story
again,
like that.
it's that's the thing. It goes literally against everything that Garfield is. All the adaptations, extra the CGI movies that want to put him in superhero stuff and all. Garfield is lazy by nature. It would be the kind of scenario where he goes, nah, fuck that shit.
Okay, I'll be a bit fair. Arguably, even in the comic strips, we had weird stuff like the volcano sacrifice strip and whatnot, so from what I understand, even in the comics, Garfield was doing some wacky stuff beforehand, so I guess it adds to the irony that, oh, the laziest guy on Earth ends up going on some extraordinary ventures.
Alright, time to explain the special effects from before, if I recall correctly.
Well, call me a wanker or something. Just tell me you're okay.
Nothing.
Let's see. There you go. It basically causes a bit of a chemical reaction.
Which is interesting because it really feels like they've been shaping this up to be more Lindenbrook's project than Alex.
Alright. Again, I like the fact that Madame Getaborg was encouraging, supportive, determined, and yet not annoying on the matter. Oh, hi.
Ah,
Fancy meeting you here, fellas.
Oh. So yeah, the other guy that was with the poisoner, he died off screen. Also did not say a single word.
I can't tell if the poisoner killed him or if
No, he's about to
something bad just
explain.
happened.
He used him as a mule.
Ah, that's why he didn't kill Alec immediately. You can be my new canary in the mine.
There you go. There's the reveal, which was also hinted in the diary. The fact that the person that Gedabor met and was killed was a descendant of Arne Saknussemm, Count Saknussemm, played by Thayer David. Oh, it was in
You're
the
in
first
my...
Rocky movie.
That bit doesn't sound totally ADR'd.
So yeah, rule number 1 of shooting in a cavern, don't.
You don't need to be a genius to know that.
And yet so many people do that.
Then they're idiots.
I find it more hilarious that Professor Hindenburg has an instrument to actually track down the origin of an echo.
You've got to be prepared for everything.
Oh my, the bullet actually scraped his arm and what was enough to actually make him faint.
Surprisingly, no Reaper. Oh.
Yeah, Count Saknussemm, like I said, another addition to the movie, tends to have also a bit of an ego and believes that since his ancestor went through here, he has the legal rights to do so.
Okay. While it may seem weird, he could work as a Kingdom Hearts opponent because, as the Tarzan world in the original
Yeah,
Kingdom Hearts
you
showed
can't
us,
even make a fight like someone as stupid as Clayton.
yes,
And yet for some reason Frollo had to be squashed by a fucking fruit bat.
like they even give the guy mystical powers and everything, but we don't actually get to fight him. So
Ooh,
weird.
pocket sand, or in this case, salt.
Yeah, and salt can legit burn the eyes, so
It was a legitimate form of torture. Don't worry, Gertrude is on the case to look on the hostage. So yeah, it's time for a improvised trial to see what to do. Damn it, where's Phoenix when you need him?
Court-martial now, have we?
You know, it's only a matter of time before Ace Attorney has a case that happens, deep underground.
why not? Let's see. Okay, let's see. If we're counting Great Ace Attorney, we've had cases involving something that has happened in a plane and something that has happened at sea. So yeah, all that's missing is below the Earth
And in
or up in
space.
space.
I'm gonna kill you. There's your explanation.
Guess that bullet did graze his right arm enough so that he can't really use it.
Maybe a nerve or a tendon.
Which, makes sense. Most people are right-handed, so injure that arm.
Oh, bummer. I mean, fair's fair. I can tell that, I don't want to hold a gun myself.
So basically, his family's been loyal to that family, and I guess that's why they hid him in that shed. But in that case, then, that just begs the question as to why he apparently wasn't with the program to keep the
Because
professor and
he
Alec.
was not expecting the Count to actually be on the expedition. Hans was just doing
So,
his life.
so apparently, if the Count had told him, hey, keep these guys there, he might have, since apparently his
Mm-hmm.
family is loyal to the Counts.
Possible, yeah. As a reminder, all this stuff is movie original. The book there was not this kind of, dilemma or of the characters deciding to kill someone or not.
Like, it is pretty convenient, but I guess to this film's credit, it was Professor Getterborough who hid them there, so the Count probably didn't know about all that was going on.
So yeah, as you can imagine, reluctantly, Count Saknussemm has to be the villain party member.
Well, hey, I guess that means we can actually have a party member die without having to feel too bad.
We'll see.
You are very trusting to let that guy go with his own
Now,
lamp.
to be fair, he does not anymore have the gun, so worst case scenario, he just accidentally kills himself, and well, that's his fault. Lovely.
Very civilized, Gertrude. I do wonder to what lengths they did to make the set design, because I'll give them credit, it does look very immersive.
Yeah, this is something that is consistent also with the book that, despite the science telling us that the more you get close to the core, the higher the temperature rises due to pressure, heat, and the movement under the crust, in here instead the temperature is dropping.
Now, regarding production of the film, Pat Boone was the first star announced. He's gone on to say that he was reluctant to make the film because it was science fiction, even after Fox promised to add some songs. It was only when they offered him 15% of the profits that he agreed at the urging of his management. He said, later on, I was very glad I did it, because it was fun to do, it had some good music, and it became a very successful film. So, they apparently added the songs and music for
Yes,
his benefit.
they knew
That
that
explains a bit.
they knew that he was an accomplished singer at the time, so they wanted to take advantage of that. So yeah, bioluminescence.
1 could say it's even 20,000 leagues under the sea. But
No,
we may
no,
never
that's
know.
another story.
Has anyone ever tried to make a cinematic universe out of Jules
Well,
Verne's novels
the
yet?
closest we got was the 2008 Brendan Fraser Warner Bros. Movie because the sequel is instead based on the Mysterious Island, which in itself is a sequel to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah.
Also, very
What
yellow
a
rocks. The other closest thing I can tell you would be the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen books because they tend to involve everything at once. So there is that.
Of course, yeah. Ooh, bare-chested James Mason daring today, are we?
Let me check how old he was by this point.
Well, as is customary of these sort of films, gotta
It wa-
show damage done to the clothes over time.
He was 50 years by the time of this movie. This also is a trick to
Oh,
mention
it's been months.
how much time has passed. Yes. Dude. Yeah, I know, right?
That's a new one. What? You just said it's been months. You can't just go back.
Also, how can you like quit? You're stuck here.
Like, good luck making it through
Yeah, I
the
mean-
flood.
Or was it just it's probably just out of frustration?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, I mean, it's been months. I get the feeling people are starting to go a little stir crazy.
Although I do agree with
A little bit.
I do agree with Linda. Why cannot Alex just stay still for a second? Jesus Christ. Anyway, here's for another movie original set piece. Mushrooms. Don't maybe check before you eating them? Fucking idiot. Yummers.
YOLO? I don't know.
Like, I don't think they're running out of supplies yet, are they?
They were mentioning that the months have been passed, so they don't knew when would happen. Now, this is a cool version of what happens in the book. In the book, we found a bunch of fossilized trees, which, despite being fossilized vegetable, they're made of stone, and yet they managed to float on top of water, so they use those to build a raft. In here, they found giant mushrooms, which will have the same principle.
Come on, jump on one of those mushrooms. You know you want to.
Yeah, let's go.
Welcome to the Mushroom Kingdom. What's up with the way she was caressing that mushroom?
Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle.
Yeah. Yes! We can make shoes out of these mushrooms.
Idiot. This spurs the moment to have a jig.
Yep, everyone's gone crazy.
Yeah, and we can't suck Nuse on this. These fucking people. However, it's time to introduce also a thing that was typical of movies around the time. The Slurpasaurus. What's that? You don't know what I'm talking about? It will become more apparent later, but because special effects were not particularly great at the time, in order to create a dinosaur, instead of having a puppet that would have been too goofy, the idea was to have iguanas with funny prosthetics and attachments to them.
Oh, so that's where the idea for the bio-lizard came from?
Possible.
What are you, his mother?
Alec, fuck's sake, you munter.
So you could say, stars don't twinkle, the moon doesn't shine.
He's shirtless the whole rest of the movie, isn't he?
Yeah, thankfully Baron Göteborg is there to remind him of what, awaits him at home.
Especially a hormonal man like you.
Yummy.
Yum yum. Holy cow, he's got a lot of hairs on that chest.
He's trying to give Sean Connery a run for
I
his
was
money.
about to say, yeah.
You see, all our Christmas picks are connected in a way.
Again, to be fair, again, the movie was released in December, so it kind of makes sense then that they would have an excuse to do so.
He's going to eat them.
Hmm.
I'm sure they taste yummy. You'll die, but I mean, they'll be yummy at
So yeah,
least.
here's something that was consistent with the book, The Underground Sea. Saknussemm is about to have a theory on it.
This is another thing I've definitely seen in a lot of adaptations.
That's because it was a thing in the book. Sure. So yeah, that's his theory at the very least.
I recall some adaptations of Atlantis kind of use this idea, basically.
Mm-hmm. He literally called dibs on calling the sea.
Oh, good lord!
These are
It's
supposed to
my...
be Dimetrodons
Uh,
for the crest, but like I said, they're just iguanas with something stuck onto that and painted over. Like I said, pre-cannibal holocaust, so unfortunately these poor reptiles were
mate,
not
mate, you don't
treated
even have to.
well.
Mate, you don't even have to do much. Just remove the composited shots, and then bam, the monster's gone.
Shut up, Drews. Hey, I love that most of the time the iguanas tend to have just a very derpy expression. Well, it's very likely they were in pain.
I'm curious, you've mentioned it a few times, but what was it about Cannibal Holocaust that finally, got better treatment of
I
animals
mentioned
in
it a
the
couple
Vogue
of
for
times, and I
films?
will save the details of commentary because they're not pretty to describe here. A lot of animal cruelty on screen, including actual killing of animals from the actors on screen.
Yikes.
I get that, but
Mhm.
it's like, I mean, I guess that must have been truly horrendous compared to all the other stuff to finally get someone to
Yeah,
talk
so
about it.
yes, the movie itself is also contention in its own right because it was so gruesome and violent that some people legitimately believed the actors were killed during the production, and the makers had to actually go on court and bring the actor to prove they were in fact alive and well.
Jesus. So yeah, they glued basically fins to
Iguanas.
iguanas.
Again, that's the Slurposaurus trick. If you know anything, you know that line, because TV tropes quotes it, you know that line in the first Jurassic Park where Ian Malcolm mentions that he believed that he was going to see big iguanas. He was referencing
Yeah.
this technique.
Huh. Cute.
So yeah, the strategy is to build the raft and actually move on before the intimidating Dimetrodon actually eat them.
Isn't it convenient that it's just Dimetrodons and no other forms of dinosaurs?
Now, I don't remember if honestly, I don't even remember if Dimetrodon were even carnivores, or at the very least paleontology deemed them as such back then. Possibly they eat fish, I think. Bummer.
Interesting usage of the organ music here. I wonder if they were trying to elicit a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea
They wanted
feel,
Peter to have
which...
some sort of tantrum going on.
No, not the questionably added lizard.
The problem is that,
please...
okay, no, Jova, I get the idea real lizards were actually killed with this, poor bastards.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Did they actually shoot, like... Oh.
Remember, it's kind of it's a shock and everything. Remember, Jova, it's kind of like with the Thunderball,
the sharks,
where they kill the sharks. It was for a bunch of decades. It was practically a custom for movie makers to view animal life as very expendable for a film to make.
Also, are those iguanas actually eating their own? Like, is
I hope not. They're eating that,
like,
and then they're gonna eat me. Oh my
Yeah.
Oh my god.
hey, look, it's winter snow. Fa la 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 la.
See, this is totally a Christmas movie. Now, to be fair, Edinburgh is pretty up in the north, so I can expect for it to be a lot of snow there.
It's funny you mentioned that. Okay, so we're on a raft in a sea. How long until people go stir crazy and try to eat each other?
Something cabin fever. Boop.
No, not the accordion.
Oh, not the gold tooth.
Whoop. Yoink.
So yeah, according to this movie, the center of the Earth is a maelstrom in the middle of an ocean.
A whirlpool?
Hooray! We found the center of the Earth. Now we're gonna die.
It's kind of lame because
Too bloody hot down here.
the book did not even bother to actually have a title drop and say, "Oh, we definitely reached the center of the Earth at one point." It was more of a case of we're going down, down. Eventually, we get around that, but we don't really talk very much about it.
Boy, this maelstrom is taking its time to suck them down.
It's the one from Pirates of the Caribbean 3, Jova. It's Calypso taking her time.
Yeah, okay, I was about to say that movie at least had the excuse that Calypso was making it dramatic, but I guess... No! I sensed a disturbance in the force!
Literally.
He's dead!
Can you imagine if it were say, "Oh, it was all a dream"? No, thank God.
God. Thinking back to Thunderbirds Are Go, I just don't get the fact that they wasted their licensing fees on a sequence that was all a dream. I never get movies that do that. Oh yeah, what's the scene I put the most money into? The scene that matters the least to the film. So
yeah.
we found the center of the Earth, so I guess we can go back now. It's kind of weird because...
Hello.
Okay, at least in the 2008 version, I recall the center of the Earth actually being a proper location rather than just a place on the sea.
Mm-hmm.
But here, I guess it is the water. Was that the case in the book as well?
Not really.
This is weird. Should we
Alright.
sleep here? We do know that there are apparently carnivorous lizards on this
Well,
beach.
maybe this is another coaster. To be fair, though,
It
it's
looks-
sand, it's rough, coarse, irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Also, this looks exactly like that, but we can chalk that up to, hey, we only had so many places to put a location.
So yeah, in case Jack Jova, wildly guessed before, it's pretty easy to guess at this point that the story arc of Professor Lindenbrook coincides with him falling in love with Madame Göteborg. Again, in case her losing her wedding ring at the center of the earth wasn't enough of an obvious metaphor.
I was about to say, how convenient. She lost her
But
ring, and
hold
thus the
on,
last
it's
of her...
time, unfortunately, for Gertrude to uphold her purpose in the movie.
To what? Eat him?
To die?
To be bait for the dinosaurs?
Well, the score is certainly not on a happy note.
Weird duck.
What are
Is
you
the duck
going
about
to
to be
do to
blown up?
that duck?
Leave the duck alone.
The guy that is told that he doesn't sleep actually is actually chasing directly the duck. Be
Boy.
concerned.
And nothing happened.
We're about to have a party, Def, and it's going to be the duck, isn't it?
The duck killed them all. Peace was never an option.
Oh, yeah, for a second there, I thought he was going to turn flat out cannibal as well. Kill everyone but him. And say, hey, don't worry, I've made us a feast. Great. Where are the others? They're the feast.
In case you're wondering, yeah, for Hans to be like this, Gertrude never really left his side too much. So,
Oh boy.
it's a rhetoric question, but does anyone remember Peter and the Wolf?
Oh boy.
Not particularly.
I do.
Barely.
Let's just say the Disney version
Oh,
definitely
don't worry,
made it a
they
lot
show you
happier.
the body.
Confirmed death, we saw the corpse.
The motherfucker ate a raw duck. What the hell?
Pretty sure he's gonna die now.
Isn't this ironic,
Oh.
though? Because Hans's family is loyal to his family, but I get the feeling this is finally what's going to push Hans to kill him.
I mean, I would be pretty pissed off too.
Why do you think?
We had plenty of food and supply. Well, okay, no, we didn't. Most of the food and supplies, I guess, was lost, but damn. Nah, I think you got this. Wait, now we are trying to stop
nobody
him?
rushed or anything.
I'm surprised they're trying to stop him now since they originally wanted him to kill the guy.
They're summarizing that we're civilized people. But don't worry, God decides now is the right time to do so. Carving death and all.
Bye.
So the moral of the story is don't eat live duck.
Yes.
You'll
Yes.
die suddenly.
Or else this will happen to you.
And conveniently, it also clears the way.
Alas, poor Gertrude. She was extra crispy.
So yeah, for the final set piece of the movie, we're about to finally get Atlantis.
Okay,
Unfortunately, this is a case where Atlantis did sunk, but there's no one left.
interesting. I was talking about Atlantis earlier. Was this also in the Verne
No.
novel? Or
What happens in the book is that after going through the Below Sea and encountering the Ichthyosaurus fighting the Plesiosaurus, they arrive on another piece of land where instead there's a lot of jungle, and they discover that prehistoric men still live, and some of them have grown 12 feet tall, and they have learned how to tame and put in flocks mammoths, woolly mammoths. Professor Lindenbrock and Axel decide to wisely not disturb them in order to not want to cause any problems or have them accidentally be killed, and just note the experience. And after that, they find their way home, basically, in a similar way to what's happening now.
I
Mostly
wonder, was
red.
it a case they grew to 12 feet tall? Was it a case where people from colder regions tend to grow taller?
Ha! That was the point of the professor. He theorized that the climate and the conditions made humanity evolve in a different way down there.
Mm-hmm. Like, I forget which country it is, but there's a very cold country. I think it's one of the free regarding Switzerland and all that, but I think like well people grow really tall over
It
there.
really is not dependent on geographical regions, as far as I know. It's more like dependent on quality of life and all. If anything, studies have basically said that humanity has been steadily, becoming taller and taller with each passing generation. So yeah, it's time for another discovery. What remains of Arne Saknussemm?
Dang, he must have been down here for an extremely long amount of time because he's nothing but bone. Which is weird because if I recall correctly, didn't they say that the notes came from him relatively recently? Interestingly enough, while I don't recall if
Gunpowder.
Atlantis features in the 2000 Leagues Under the Sea movie, it did feature in the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea ride at Disney World, which features scenes from the Lost City of Atlantis, which, if I recall correctly, some of those set pieces were made akin to look like this.
So yeah, it looks like Saknussemm had one last thing to point at the expedition.
A potential way out. So, does that mean that he went through everything our protagonist did
Only
and
to die
just
because he
died
had
at
a
the last?
broken leg. Yes.
Unlucky.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like it's smooth sailing from here, gang.
Maybe.
Sure.
You know, that's very considerate of him. It's a shame I died, but at least if somebody else comes, they'll know the way out. Which means he kept that finger pointed all that time. Holy cow, that's some force of will even in his dying moments.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Looks like
That's no rock.
we might have another Slurposaurus.
Unless rocks have become sentient.
Well, no, like we said, this is not a Thunderbirds are go.
Interestingly enough, the 2008 film kind of did an homage to this by having it be a T-Rex as the final
Like I said,
boss.
a lot of movies try to mix up this and the Lost World, as Arthur Conan Doyle, the Lost World, by having more dinosaurs in it. Uh-oh, you know it's bad because it turns red. As Nex said, red's bad.
He's so mad he's seeing red. So what is this supposed to be, like a gigantic chameleon?
Kinda. It's more like of a rock lizard.
So I'm guessing this one's more of a mystical creature as opposed to an actual
The
dinosaur.
movie never
So
explains indirectly what that is, and it's not in design really connected to any dinosaurs, but consider Places of Atlantis, so maybe it's what the movie passes off as a Leviathan, maybe.
I guess at least this one didn't have to be painted or given prosthetics that would kill it.
I think the red thing was colored in post-production, hopefully.
Yeah, it looked like it because the background around him turned red too, so that implies post-production rather than painting.
Yeah, because this is Atlantis, we did find the flints, working flints.
Okay, Hans, your Tarzan cosplay is looking fly there.
I think he still hates you.
Oh.
If only we had something big or threatening to cause that landslide.
That was actually also this is basically where we go back to being accurate to the book. Professor Lindenbrock and Axel do find a potential way out that is blocked by a stone, and their only solution, as Lindenbrook here is also about to say, is to blow that up.
It's all part of God's plan.
Clearly. I don't know, with all that updraft, I don't know if the fuse can actually, stay still properly.
I will say I'm surprised the lizard hasn't already attacked. It seemed like it was going to when it
Listen,
literally turned
the poor
red.
fucker probably slept for thousands of years and just woke up. Give the fucker a break.
Well, I'll give him credit. He's well-tempered. Like, usually when you step on the tail, that's usually what gets them to attack. But, no, I guess he's rather zen and calm. I'm sure as long as he doesn't mind us potentially waking him up with a little alarm clock, he'll be just fine.
Well, yeah.
Well, it's not like we've got anything left to lose at this point. I assume that the artifacts that they are packed up will hopefully be proof enough, because otherwise, if they have no proof that they did all this, this
Put a pin
expedition
on
was
that,
kind of for nothing. Wait a minute, part of this is gold, and gold isn't exactly good for shielding against explosions. But time for a prayer.
This is not the time.
Well, what other time will there be? Get as close to God as you can. Which, hey, you know what? I do dig that. Scientists
See? Because this shit happens.
So you're saying prayers to God actually somehow hurt our chances?
Clearly.
I do find it interesting, though. Scientists who are, at least
you go.
still willing to be religious.
Okay.
Are they playing a baritone saxophone for this guy's stream?
Now it's my turn to say that no, it was just a composite shot. Now, thankfully, as you can see, that tongue was just a very rubber special effects, so at least that did not actually harm the lizard.
Yeah,
Don't worry,
like if that
they saved the torturing of Edward in just a second. So yeah, similar to the Disney's 2001 Atlantis, just with a simple explosion, it turns out that under Atlantis, in this case on Atlantis, there was an active volcano with a lot of, well, pasta sauce, because that's not lava. Like,
Well, crud. So
Don't
much
worry,
for...
just eat the sauce. You'll be fine.
bit too spicy.
How did you get up there?
Ow.
Editing.
Bonk.
And yeah, I'm pretty sure they actually did kill the poor lizard with pouring something hot on it. God damn it.
Okay, assuming that that's actually pasta, I'd like to assume that the smoke effects are just there to make it look hotter than
Hopefully.
it actually
I find it more
is.
hilarious. Check this out. The movie is now treating the fact that they're using the sacrificial brazier as a shield against the temperature, even though braziers were literally built up in order to be heated from down there because they were good at conducting heat.
So they should be getting cooked alive, basically.
And yet instead it's the opposite thing is happening.
Maybe God did hear their prayers and decided to give physics and science the middle finger for this. Good
That was
job.
being very weird today.
Thankfully,
I couldn't tell. Thank you.
Thankfully, none of their ears are popping up due to the pressure. Thank God.
Hold on, everybody. Here it comes.
Hold on to your butts.
Hey, sure, did the ride at Tokyo Disney replicate this part?
Kind of, yeah.
Beautiful.
So yeah, the consistent thing with the book, they start in Iceland and they reach instead the island of Stromboli in Italy, in Sicily. There you go. I would like to point out that Stromboli is actually an active volcano. I'm not sure why they think this is very weird.
I think what they find weird is that several people shot out from that volcano.
Oh, they will find that out soon.
And then it turns out there are sharks in the water with them. It's just one of those weeks. Interestingly enough, in the 2008 version,
Give me
they
a hand.
crashed onto a vineyard instead.
Slow, right? Slow.
Piano.
It means
Not
slow.
piano. Musically, that usually means soft. Interesting.
Drink, lady, drink.
So, Italy saves the day.
Well, now we're about to have one final gag.
Oh no, Alec died. He's totally dead after all these other near misses with
where
death
he
he's
went
had.
inside of a fucking pine tree in a convent, of course. Don't worry, we have
How?
a ladder.
How did he land there, but they landed in the sea?
What he means? Oh, he
He
wants
wants
pants. Pants? Oh my.
Joke's on him, he's landed at Castle Anthrax.
Ow.
Time for some more
Oh,
Austin Power
dear, I
censorship. Not the lamb. Poor
Somebody
lamb.
really wanted to see Papoon. Somebody really wanted to see Papoon naked. Also, that lamb got closer to Papoon's jewelry
And now
than
we know
most
what. And now we
ladies
know why
did.
Rousey is traumatized.
Dear God, no.
Like, I don't get it though. How did he land all the way over there while they landed in the sea?
Mm.
And of course, he comes out with a broken leg.
Oh, you'll hear about
And
that
his,
soon enough. First, one of your concerns.
Oh, brother.
Now.
You literally shot out of a volcano. I
Well,
think people will
he wants
take
to
your
be
word
humble
for it.
about it, but He wants to inspire people to follow his footsteps.
Please, also venture into the center of the earth. Just be wary of the dinosaurs, the lava, the floods, and the dead bodies.
Bravo, bravo.
So yeah, at the very least, Lindenbrook doesn't want to, brag about that and wants to potentially go back if he wants to.
Oh God, more speeches.
It's just for a case of, the character who has never spoken English does that to prove that thing's serious. I appreciate that. I like Hans. There you go, Dave. That's how he broke his leg. Alec is really just the butt monkey of the movie.
After everything he survived, it's the wedding that nearly kills him. Am I right, gentlemen?
Similar to the book, because Axel also marries his girlfriend by the end of it when he returns home.
I'm wondering if they ever... Okay, did Verne ever make a sequel to Journey to the Center of the Earth where they do actually go back?
The book is more conclusive. It doesn't really end with the One Piece is real kind of moment.
And yes, these two are basically going to settle down.
I mean, I will say that it might be a feel bit rush, but they bother to say that in universe months had passed, so they literally had time to build up this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a bit clumsy at the end of the day, but I do like that it's a case of, trying to have the professor see his ways and to still showcase that Madame Göteborg, is still, independent in her own right.
Well, now... And one more song to go for the road.
A cap of the ones that they had when it was night at the beginning.
This really feels like a missing Disney song.
And yeah, as long as it was custom for movie at the time, the movie just stops. Not that much in terms of, credits.
There we go.
Carlsberg Cabinet National Park Service, the background for a portion of his motion picture, blah blah blah. Alright then, that's where they filmed, a good chunk.
I'm not sure those animals really appreciated it.
No. Well, that's just part of the course. So, final thoughts, Dibs.
It's okay. I think really the big issue with this film is the length. It felt like they could have cut a little bit down to just flat out 2 hours, and it would have been a lot better paced.
Remember also, like I said, the book in terms of pace was technically even worse because the initial part of Otto and Axel getting to the Snafolja takes way too long and nothing substantial happens. You could literally rip the pages out and it will be fine.
Yeah, I was going to say,
It's
it takes them a while to even start the titular journey.
To give credit to Burns, if I recall correctly, that was back in the day where writers were literally paid for every word that they used.
Oh,
so
they pad it out just to get $1 million.
Once again, art influenced by capital produce always great result.
The acting's solid, discounting that one elephant in the room. The music's solid enough, although you didn't tell me this was a musical coming in.
Well, that's how we managed to get Pat Boone into the role. Which just really
I'm convinced Wibbs to watch it.
Which makes it funny that this was not initially a Disney film, because it feels like one of Disney's live-action films of the time with those musicals.
To be fair, Jova, it was the standard also of a lot of live-action movies. Again, the first iteration of Dr. Dolittle, which was also Fox, also was a musical.
That is true, yeah. I guess it's just hard to imagine it outside the Disney style because it's what Disney were iconic for, but yeah, it was kind of the zeitgeist of the time as well, to be fair.
Aside from that, though, not really much else to say about the movie. It's perfectly fine, if albeit rather long. And I'll be interested to eventually see what the more modern adaptations
Yeah, I was
of
about to
the source
ask.
material would
I was
get.
Oh.
I was about to ask if you had seen the Brendan Fraser movie. I guess not.
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, that would be
Oh,
interesting.
dude, you're in for a treat with all the different adaptations that came later.
All right, Jova, your final thoughts.
I find this movie to be a time capsule of filming techniques, both classic and also pretty negative. All right, let's get the negatives out of the way here. The mistreatment of those poor iguanas and potentially that lizard. I like to hopefully imagine that that lizard was just covered in pasta sauce as opposed to, actually melted down. Jesus Christ. The iguanas, though, it seems like they were shot and then tasked to feed on their own, since we do see them literally biting and eating each other. Jesus, that's kind of gruesome.
Don't forget the duck being painted over. I don't think they actually killed it for the scene, to show that Count Sagnussem ate Gertrude, but they definitely were not treating her well too by painting over her. As I mentioned, paint at the time, especially on animals, was incredibly toxic towards them.
Yeah, I think if our correctly, paint became less lethal than animals, but even still, painting them is kind of frowned upon these days anyway, so, don't. That aside, though, it's interesting that the film does try to give us antagonists that the book lacked. Problem is that they don't really do much with the antagonists. One of our antagonists is given one scene before he's killed, and then the other main one is the kind of a wuss. Like, he holds our heroes at gunpoint for a little bit, screws that up, and is really only spared because Hans owes a light debt to his family. Again, he's like, oh, well, what if he kills you? Whatever, as long as he doesn't hurt my duck. Well, I guess that was bad news for the Count, and then he messed with the one living being that Hans cared about enough to overturn his no-killing policy, essentially. But it's alright, Hans doesn't have to become a murderer because, by the graces of God, as they pretty much say themselves, the Count literally trips into his own death. Oops. Honestly, part of me even wonders why we even really needed to have him. So we could have the tragedy of Gertrude dying, essentially. Otherwise, he doesn't really serve much of a purpose. Sure, yeah, he grazes Pat Boone's arm, but even with that, Pat's still able to do relatively a bit. Yeah, I guess to just get from my other negative here, yeah, I'm gonna agree. This movie is maybe a little too long for its own good. I feel like they either needed to spice stuff up more or work on the pacing more if they really wanted to facilitate making this movie long. It's not even just that it resorts to stuff like musicals or slow motion. No, some scenes literally just carry on. And mind you, there's a science to this. A lot of these scenes do work out, but some really feel like they're just window dressing. Oh, did we really need to see Pat Boone naked this many times, essentially? Look, I don't have time to really try to unravel the hypocrisies of the media industry and whatnot, but okay, negatives out of the way. Positives. The cinematography feels very classic of the time, and I'll give them credit. The lengths they went to for some of the effects and set designs are indeed pretty cool, essentially. Obviously, they worked with what they had and whatnot. And again, ignoring the animal cruelty, the way that they layered and scaled up the iguanodons to resemble dimetrodons, at least with the size scaling, is remarkable. Again, I don't care for the crueler parts of it, but them managing to make the lizards look like, threatening creatures is relatively impressive and whatnot. And hey, using the caverns for set design does give it a natural cave design, though. Thank goodness this didn't turn into one of those many cave horror stories you hear about online nowadays, which really ends in tragedy for... Yeah, or any of those cave spelunker stories. As far as I can tell, nobody got killed or injured during the making of this. No humans, anyway, but I digress. The acting is good and on point. All the actors seem to fulfill their roles and tasks pretty well. So, Oh yeah, honestly, if you're a big film enthusiast and if you want to see like Journey to the Center of the Earth as close to the roots of the book with actually reading the book, I guess this adaptation is the one for you because having seen other adaptations, they go wilder. But in a sense, I can't blame them too much since, again, the original book is one I do feel you might need to spice up for, even for like a new book edition, because it definitely shows its age in that regard. Not for the worst, but again, all for improvements here. Now, how well later adaptations did, that'll be up for us to decide when we finally comment on them.
Honestly, not much to add. Yeah, it was way too long for its own good. It was alright, though. Just there were a lot of moments that were essentially white noise. They could have trimmed it down. I would like to think that no animals were harmed, but giving this time period for movies, it's not nice to think about. Not much to add aside from that. It was just whatever, honestly.
All right, so to conclude, first, just a bit of extra mention to something that you were a bit confused with previously. I can mention this by re-listening to be sure. The Italian spoke by the people towards the end is actually not only accurate, but the pronunciation makes me believe they genuinely had actual Italian extras instead of actually hiring some people. The nun might be an actual American actress because there's a faint English accent still, but it's much better than what was happening at the time. So props to Fox for actually having, a bit of the extra mile going on. Second, because you seem to be confused about it, the term piano has to be used to indicate to slow things down, and that's also because the musical instrument. I don't know for what specific reason because I don't know about the history of how it was made and how it was translated to the English language. But the English name is just a part of it. The entire name of the instrument is called pianoforte, which means slow yet strong, basically, which indicates the sound that you make when you actually, press the keys on it. Yes, you can go to a fast rhythm, but that's basically the idea on how it was created. That's basically
It's
it.
interesting you mentioned that since piano and forte are actually, well, those are two terms we use in music. Piano or piano for soft, pianissimo for very soft, forte for loud, and fortissimo for
Fortissimo, yes.
very loud.
Again, they can have a bit multiple meaning, but for the purpose of that seeing, that the term was used to slow down in the case of pulling them up, as in doing it gently, basically. But anyway, on to the final thoughts. Yeah, I can agree with what it was said about how this movie, in a lot of aspects, has not aged particularly well. Not to say about it super controversial. The biggest argument to be made is the animal cruelty, unfortunately. But like I said, compared to the book, while it is not really a faithful adaptation, it gets most of the book right to not be in name only, and the stuff it adds, I argue, is clever enough. And like I said, in a couple of his aspects, particularly how they handle Carla's character, it was fairly progressive for its time. Yes, to compensate that, Alec is the one that gets to be on the end of what would have happened to the typical female character in movies, having to expose skin, getting into perils multiple times, being the person that drags out, the expedition. So I don't know actually how this is happened. I do seem to remember from the last time I read the book that Axel was not particularly that much of a screw up in the book. Sure, he was young, a bit naive and everything, but and just a bit of a foil to the professor rather than an active impeachment to it. So I don't know what the Fox executives or the director or the writers decide to do, but I partly like this kind of mix, but I do agree that a slight more balancing, maybe having answer also having to fall into a bit of peril situation sometimes instead of just being the Deus ex machina because he's the strong man of the group, you know. Or even the professor himself, potentially. But again, that's just speculation on how the movie was made and all. Aside from that, it's still a bit of a classic from my childhood again, and as such, I do appreciate it a bit, nonetheless. There are better adaptations though, and there are also bonkers adaptations. I didn't mention it, I bothered to look up a few screenshots, but I seem to remember that 70s animated Australian movie that I also grew up watching did involve giant ants instead. So
Of course it did.
So there are more bonkers adaptations out there of this franchise and this book. I haven't seen it yet, like I said, the Disney Plus original version. But for what I checked in the meantime, in terms of data, it's a Spanish-made one. Apparently, not even Hollywood made. Maybe that's why it didn't make that much noise until now, until I checked out, because it's one of those shows that was made locally in one country for their country. My country did the same thing. A couple of specific series were made for Disney Plus, but for our marketing rather than for internationally. So maybe it's that. I don't know.
Possible.
Anyway, that's pretty much it, and unfortunately that means we're still not nearly close to actually Christmas. The good news is that we finally found a way out. If I can just push this folder out a second. Well, we're out, but, well, I guess in Christmas spirit, there's way too much snow, actually. Where are we?
Wow,
somewhere where I wish you told me to get a coat.
Sorry, Liz.
Well, okay. In our defense, I did ask Tio to take us somewhere warm, and he took us to the center of the earth, so I guess we weren't expecting to come somewhere this cold. Out in Germany. I wish I could just take all this heat and let it go.
Say that again.
No,
Let it snow. Let it grow.
That's
let
better.
it glow.
It's fantastic.
Well, we'll see what happens if we venture into this snowy wasteland next time. See you for that.
Hopefully we won't be frigid and frozen.
No!